This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our flower series. In this video, we're making a beautiful buttercream sunflower. The video is broken down into segments, so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. So let's start making our colors. We're using simple or American style buttercream for our sunflowers, and we're going to use a few shades of liquid gel color. First, lemon yellow. Then we're going to use some sunset orange, buckeye brown, and finally a little bit of coal black. To start with, we're going to make our first shade of yellow. I typically make two just to help give the flowers some dimension. And I've just got a little bit in there because we're only going to make a few sunflowers today. I'm just going to start with a couple of nice drops of yellow. It was giving me some small ones, so I put in some extras, and just a little bit of that orange. Because I want kind of one vibrant color and one kind of dull color. I think that's going to be beautiful. It gives me a nice kind of almost egg yolk-like shade, so beautiful for sunflowers. Kind of captures that really lovely, vibrant yellow hue. Just get that all mixed around. Make sure it's bright enough and you like it. You can always use more or less. You can always do less vibrant shades, lighter colors, but I think that's going to be good for our first color. So let's go ahead and make the second color of yellow. So for our second yellow, we're going to go for more of a golden tone, or maybe kind of like what you might call a harvest gold color. I'm just going to start with a nice drop of yellow, a little bit of that buckeye brown, and just a tiny bit of that orange. And we're looking for something that just has a different feel to it than the other one. Will give us a little contrast, so we're going to use it to do a different style of petal. So you can see the brown kind of dulls it out, gives us a little bit more of a low chroma shade. I like to start with a little bit of brown because a lot of times a little bit goes a really long way and will give us a nice tone. So if you want to make it more of a harvest gold, you can keep adding more brown, but in general, I like where this is going. You see how one shade is kind of a little more orange and one is a little more yellow and a little dull, so they have nice contrast between the two. So for our final color, we're going to make some brown for the centers, and I'm going to use some of my buckeye brown, just some nice drops, probably two to start with. We want a nice deep color, and just a small drop of our black. And that'll give us a nice kind of mahogany or walnut shade of brown. It'll be great for the centers on our sunflowers. And I like to go just a little lighter than my intended shade on this, especially because that black and brown will really deepen over time. But you can see it gives us a nice deep shade of brown. So it's going to be perfect against those wonderful yellows. So we're going to use 3 12-inch disposable decorating bags for this project. And we've got one fitted with a coupler that has our brown loaded in it. We're going to use a 104, so just a regular petal tip, and a number 5 round tip with that brown. Our second has a number 352 on it, so that's one of those V-shaped leaf tips. And this has our lighter kind of almost egg yellow bright shade in it. And then the third also fitted with a number 5 round tip, so nice big round tip on that. And that has our kind of harvest gold yellow in it. And these are the 3 bags we're going to use to create our sunflowers. So let's talk about the techniques that we're going to use to create our sunflowers. For our petals, we're going to use our number 5 tip to create what I call little curved spikes. So it's just like pulling a spike. I just either flick my tip to the right, left, up, or down just to give it a little curve and kind of help it flop over and make them look stylish. There's nothing too exacting about it. it just gives it a little bit of extra realistic feel. So like anytime we're creating a spike, I'm holding the bag either at a 45-degree angle or straight up and down. For these, we're 45. I'm gonna let the frosting touch, balloon a little bit, pull away while I'm still squeezing, and instead of pulling straight, I'm just gonna give it a little flick. And that'll help it kind of curve over and do some fun little things for you and give you some beautiful little kind of petals that are a little more stylized and a little thinner than the other ones we're gonna create. So with our 352, we're gonna hold it just like we would a leaf. The key here is not to let it build up too much. So let's make a regular leaf first. Holding the bag at a 45-degree angle, let one of those tips, right? One of the little points on this tip, you can see it. So we're just gonna use one of the points and touch the surface, right? Let that frosting build up and then pull away while we're still squeezing. And you can see that gives us a leaf that's fat and gets really skinny really quickly. Our goal is to start moving as soon as we start squeezing and pull a longer one so that they look more like the petals of a sunflower. So we'll just give this a little practice. So pull as soon as you start squeezing and then pull away. And you can see we get an elongated shape to that leaf, and it gives us much more of the feel of a petal on a sunflower. So our goal is to pipe these little leaves, but keep them nice and kind of skinny and elongated rather than short and fat like we normally would if we're just pulling little green leaves in between flowers. Next, we're going to use our number 5 tip to do dots in the center. Same way we always do them, holding that bag straight up and down in relationship to the surface that we're piping on. We're going to be just up off the surface, give it a squeeze, make a nice full dot, stop squeezing, just circle it around quickly to finish it off. And this will give you beautiful little dots in the middle of your sunflower to give it a nice textured surface that looks like those lovely little seeds. The other thing we're going to use is our 104 tip. We're going to use this to pipe a disc, and that's something we actually have to do on our flower now. This is also going to be an optional step. If you're piping, say, directly on a cake or a cupcake, you don't necessarily need the disc. The disc is just going to help hold everything together so that those flowers are easy to transfer and easy to build up on your nail. So now that we've talked a little about the techniques, let's talk about how we combine them to make our flowers. So let's talk about building that sunflower blossom. We're going to start on our flower nail. Our first step is going to be to grab our bag of brown with that 104 tip on it. We're going to hold it so that the tip is right there against the surface, kind of lay flat position. Back of the bag is going to be at 3 o'clock. The fat end of the tip at the center, the skinny end facing out, and just hold it right there with that fat end right in the center of your nail. We're just going to squeeze and spin, and that's just going to give us a nice flat circular disc there, and that's going to give us a nice template to build our flower on and also give our flowers support. Our second step is going to be to grab those bags. I usually start with my 352. I go around twice with that, and I'll build up 2 layers of those beautiful petals, some kind of going more at a severe angle, some a little laying kind of flat. So that kind of depends on how you slide that bag away. And we'll talk about that as we're actually doing it. And then I'll go in and fill in with that number 5. Make some cute little skinny curly petals, both on top, underneath, and kind of in between. And just go around anywhere I think it needs it, either a little change in color, a little change in texture because the petals are a different size, and just a little bit of change in direction. And that's going to give us nice full looking flowers that have a little bit of motion and are nice and vibrant. And we'll finish it off by doing those little dots in the center. So I like to just start on the outside edge, work all the way around, and then go in concentric circles towards the middle. And you can actually build up a nice little second layer in the middle if you want to, give those dots a little bit of height so it gives it just a little bit of a curved, rounded feel. If that's a little too much to start with, you can just go ahead and do a nice single flat layer. So we're going to start with our 104 tip. It's the brown of bag. We're going to orient it so that the fat end of that opening is right there in the center, skinny end is pointing out, back of the bag is towards 3 o'clock, and it's just laying flat against the surface. We're going to squeeze and just spin. And our idea here, like just goal, is just to make a nice kind of flat circle. And that's going to give us a little template to pipe our little petals around, give them something attached to, and make this nice and stable so that it's easy to move around. It's easy for us to take our papers, transfer them to a tray, put it in the fridge and chill it, and then pull it back out later and place it on our cakes. It's going to make nice, stable flowers that have a nice little structure or support to them so that they're easy to move and transfer around. I'm going to go ahead and change the tip on my bag of browns so that it's ready when I need it. And it has that number 5 on there so I can do my little seeds for my center. So once we have that ready, let's pull out our 352. So this is our lighter color of yellow. And I'm going to do 2 motions with it. So I'm always going to be holding it at 45 degrees when I pull those petals. But some of them I'm going to mimic the angle of the bag and pull along it. And some of them I'm going to kind of pull towards the horizon. So think pulling straight out will lay them flat against the surface, right? If you pull along the surface of the nail, and sliding along that 45-degree angle will give you a little spike up. So those are 2 ways you can do it to give those flowers some dimension. Some of the petals flat, some of them going up, and I usually do 1 round of each. So I'll do the flat ones first and then go in and do the spiked ones second. So nice long petals. And you can see I'm just going right along the surface as I pull away. And this gives us almost a star-like appearance to it. Next, I'm going to go in between 2 of them and I'm going to slide on that 45-degree angle. So just right like that. You can do these a little shorter even. And you can see this is already building up some depth and dimension to those flowers. Beautiful. I'm going to change over to my bag with my number 5 and my darker color. And I'm just going to pull some of those little spikes. They can be in between, on top, anywhere I feel it needs it. And you can see it already starts to fill it out. The slight change in color makes for a nice little addition. Nice little bit of contrast. The color change isn't so dramatic, but it's just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of difference, a little bit of variation. Just pull those anywhere I think I need it. And you can see it already has some texture, some depth. They look really cool from the sides even too. Right now, the only thing that's flat and not very dynamic is the center. And we'll go in with our number 5 tip and our brown, and we'll remedy that really quickly. So just all the way around the outside, get it started. And we'll do our little dots. And just rotate your tip as you need to. So you have a good angle and you can kind of see what's going on. But you can see right away, just adding that first little ring, that's a little bit of texture to it. You can be really exact and perfect with your dots, or you can leave them with just a little bit of a spike on the top. That's fine. Sometimes it's easier just to go a little faster. So that's 1 layer. If I want to, I can go ahead and build up a second layer as well. Just to give it a little height in the center and a little variation. And I'll just check out my flower, and if it needs it anywhere, just go ahead and pull an extra little spike, maybe some coming across the middle. It's a little easier once you've done your centers to do that. Or go in between any petals and pull any. I can even pull my 352 back out, and anywhere I think it needs a little bit of an extra petal, just jam one in there. Just make sure it connects to the rest of your petals and you'll be good. And you can make these beautiful full sunflowers really easily with just a few simple techniques. So we've practiced on our flower nail. Now that we've done that, let's practice one on a cupcake, because these are really easy way to decorate cupcakes, especially for fall. So we just want to imagine that there's going to be kind of a circular void there in the center, and start our petals kind of about like a ½ inch in from the outside edge of the cupcake. So I'm going to do the same thing I did. The only thing I'm going to skip is the step where I piped that disc. We don't need it because we're going directly onto our finished surface. So I'm just going to pull a nice little ring of petals flat against the surface first. And then I'm going to do some at that nice little 45-degree angle. And these don't have to be perfect, and they can definitely kind of eclipse the edge of the cupcake. They're really cute like that. So do some pulling out. Think of it kind of as being towards the horizon when you pull the back alongside the back, and then some just slide along that 45-degree angle that you're holding the bag. And so once you've got your petals in there with your 352, you can go in and add some with your number 5. Just pull some fun little spikes. I always do some flop to the right, some flop to the left, some up, some down, just to give it a nice kind of wild feel. Once we've gone around with our number 5 tip, I'm just going to go ahead and start filling in the center with our brown. So just a nice little ring all the way around. It's a great way to finish it off. Sometimes for my sunflowers, I'll mix a few shades of brown and kind of all swirl them together to give the seeds a little bit of a striped feel. And that makes them look even more realistic. But to start with, you can just do a single color of brown. And one layer will do it. If you want to give them a little extra height or even just a little extra frosting, you can always go back in. And I start usually about 2 rows in and just do a second layer. And that'll give it that kind of slightly domed feel to it. And then just fill in anywhere I need to or want to with some more of those little spikes. Sometimes I like to pull them so that they're kind of hanging over the center, and it's a little easier to do those once you've actually piped your little seeds in the center. And that gives us a beautiful, wonderful, wild, natural looking sunflower that's a great, easy way to top a cupcake, and they make a lovely display for fall. So if you enjoyed this little sunflower lesson, you can check out the tutorial we did that's a 3D style sunflower cake, where we use the same technique to create a wonderful 3-dimensional design. Or you can check out some of the other videos in our flower series. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.